Right, we'll continue. We'll continue with the trees, the dark trees. So we mix two shades of green. One side is obviously illuminated by sunshine, and the other side is gradually getting dark as it creeps right down to the base. And that dark green will help to contrast the buildings and the barn, and should give quite a nice effect. The green I'm going to mix is with Windsor yellow and ultramarine. For the pale green. Windsor yellow and a touch of ultramarine, well, more than a touch. And a little burnt umber. I don't think that's too far up, perhaps a slight bit more blue, though I don't really want to go darker. Not a lot different. That would be light green. Now the dark, excuse me, the dark green, instead of using ultramarine, I'll use Windsor blue and a little bit more burnt umber. And we'll drop that in wet, and you should get a smooth, soft edge, give the effect of roundness. So that's the kind of effect that we're going to be looking for. One of the things to watch out for is that the light green isn't too wet, otherwise you get a diffusion when you add the dark in, and it hardly creates the effect you want. And yet if you leave it too long, it starts to dry and you're going to get blobs and dark edges where you've introduced your colour. So to prevent that and to indicate what I'm going to do, I will do the foliage in two separate applications. So we'll do the first one. If there's a secret that you must remember, it's don't be sparse with your application of colour. One of the problems with wet in wet is putting your second colour in when the first colour is well on the way to drying. If you let your brush run out of colour, that is more likely to happen than not. Keep your brush pretty well loaded, and you should be okay. It may prove to be a little daunting to keep your brush loaded to the required amount. You feel as though it's starting to run away with you, and the colour starts running down the page. But if you're careful and you practice enough, it's you can stay in control. Now you can see there's quite a bit of colour running down, but if you just suck it up with a thirsty brush, a little blib there, we won't worry about that at this stage. It's just starting to lose its glaze at the top, but it isn't at the top we want to put the dark colour. It's at the bottom, which will be the longest, take the longest in drying. So by the time this area is okay, the top area will have started to dry. So if you let your palette, your easel flatten a bit, the drying process will just slow down a touch. That's our guide. Obviously that's dried too far along in the drying process. I don't know whether the reflection is obvious on the video, but if I move my head I can see where it's still quite glossy and where it's started to lose its gloss. It started to lose its gloss around the top left hand side, underneath that branch unfortunately, and also around there. But down here it's still quite damp, but we don't leave it any longer, because as we get up here it's going to leave sharp edged blobs, which is something we don't want. We want a soft edge on all introductions of this darker colour. So just before the gloss has gone off your green, start introducing your dark. there's no colour in there, that is going to be a sort of a straw colour, in fact a burnt umber colour. That has started to dry. See how it's not diffusing, yet here it's okay. So these little barriers create problems, and more so if that was masking fluid. I'm going to have to put some in there. I can't leave that as one bland area of paler green. I'm just going to pick at it. But you can see it's not quite so dark. I haven't put a real load of colour in there. I think that's safe. I'm going to leave these areas of dark colour. To take it out would make it go paler, and we want that to remain quite dark. So now we'll do the